If you have ever drifted into a daydream and you were aware of yourself drifting and you didn't mind yourself drifting, and you very much enjoyed that state, you would have experienced more profound and clearer experience that we call hypnosis. In this relaxed state, your mind can rest completely. And what's more, you can be aware of this rest and focus on what makes sense to you. What is it that makes you feel better? As your relaxation deepens, your mind becomes even more still and focused, and the process of recovery starts to take place in the deep structures of your brain, helping to enhance physical and emotional well-being. Once this relaxed state is experienced by you, it becomes self-hypnosis. This experience can help you to return back using similar process in the future. A small reminder is enough to re-engage. There is nothing unusual or special about the experience of self-hypnosis. We all know it to various degrees. It is more than emptying your mind of thoughts, as would some meditative practices suggest in their teachings. Hypnosis is about guiding your thoughts specifically to what is good for yourself, and doing this in a complete state of calm. This is an art that our minds are perfectly capable of. I can help you to experience it, and then you can create an internal world that is the most beautiful of retreats. In this way, you are going to be looking after yourself and experience your own place of safety. So let's now experience relaxation together in the world of hypnosis. And who better to choose than Dr. Erickson, the father of modern style of hypnosis that we use in treatments these days. I have chosen a part of a chapter in the book In the Room with Milton H.Erickson, MD, that was produced by J Parsons-Fein. The chapter is called Boston Nurse, and this is the intervention Dr. Erickson do when he treated her depression and suicidal thoughts. And then I said to her, you know, Anne, there is such a thing as time distortion in hypnosis. Would you like to know what time distortion is? She was interested. And I said, a minute can seem like an hour, or hours can seem like just a few minutes. You can expand time, you can contract time. Now, when you drop medicine in the eye of a child, the child, he waits and waits and waits and waits and waits until you do the second two. But to the child, he was waiting. And you will have friends come and visit you haven't seen for a long time, and stay all afternoon, and at 6 o'clock you all say, what happened to the day? The whole day has disappeared so rapidly. You can expand time, you can contract time. So I gave her a few lessons in time distortion. And then I suggested that we go to the Boston Arboretum. She promptly hallucinated us in the Boston Arboretum. I pointed to the annuals that were dying and mentioned how they would be replanted next spring. Perennials, they were dying too. And they would come to life again next spring, all by themselves. I pointed to the leaves that were changing color this October, and in New England is a very nice place to see the changing color of leaves. And I pointed out various shrubs, bushes, vines and trees, discussed their flowering the development of seed and fruit, and how many plants distribute their seeds in various ways. Dandelion by having down, and the wind takes the seed and carries it. How the seeds get eaten by birds, not digested, but they are spread around. And Anne and I had a very interesting trip to the Arboretum. We went in rather rapid time because I had Anne enlarging mentally on everything I had said, and I didn't have to say very much. Now the audience could hear me talking about the Arboretum, and then I suggested we go to the Boston Zoo. I told her about the baby kangaroos. She had never seen one. She was almost like being at the zoo. We looked at the baby kangaroo, the adult ones, and the lions, their cubs, and the tigers and their cubs, the wolves and their whelps, and elephants and the monkeys, and so on, and bears. And then we went to the aviary and looked at the birds. And I spoke about the migration of birds, how a tern was born, how they hatched one summer in the eyrie. And when the right time comes, they fly 10,000 miles to the tip of South America. It doesn't have a compass. It has no college education, but he finds his way anyway. We spoke about the wonders of living creatures. And then we went back to the hospital. I gave her a positive view of the audience. I let various members of the hospital staff talk to her and demonstrate rapport. She talked to them, and not as a nurse, but as an equal. She was a very lovely subject. And then I suggested, Anne, the hospital is boring. Let's walk down to the Boston beach. We spoke about the beach, having been there long before the white men, enjoyed by the Indians, countless generations of Indians, and then countless generations of whites with pale faces who had enjoyed the beach. And it was at the present a very lovely beach, being enjoyed by the current generation, yet that beach of green being there permanent for future generations. And I had her look at the ocean. It was smooth with small waves on it, huge waves. We talked about the inhabitants of the ocean, the migrations of the green turtle, the whales, the salmon, their mysterious ways of finding home in some river. Salmon, the eels, the hatching on the land, down the river, and nobody knows where they go. Eventually they return to the land to lay their eggs. Same with salmon, same with the green turtle. We spoke of all the mystery of the ocean, how mysterious it was, and there was a tide, go out and come back in. And we see the violent storm of the ocean, and we wandered back to the hospital and did a few more things. And I thanked her very profusely in the trance state, and I awakened her and thanked her for her services. She was obviously surprised. She thought she'd just arrived on the platform. She went back to the ward to complete the day's work, and the audience discussed her performance with me, asked me a lot of questions. The next day, Anne did not come to work. It alarmed her friends. The next day, she didn't show up for work, went to her apartment, couldn't find any traces of her uniform, just a few clothes that she had kept. She was an orphan, had no siblings. The police were called in missing person. The police could find no trace of her body. A year later, when I lectured in Boston, Dr. Alexander and I were very unpopular. Nothing had been heard from Anne. 5 years later, everybody had forgotten Anne, except Dr. Alexander and me. Still no traces. 10 years later, no traces. 15 years later, no traces. And 16 years later, One afternoon, I got a long-distance call from Florida. A woman's voice said, "You probably will not remember me. My name is Anne. I was the nurse that you used as a subject at the Boston State Hospital in 1956. I was thinking today you might like to know what had happened to me." I told her I was very interested. Upon leaving work, she went to the naval recruiting station, and she demanded immediate induction into the Navy. She had all her credentials. The Navy took her in, served a couple of enlistments, and then she was discharged in Florida and got a job in a hospital there. Met a retired Air Force officer, married him, and had 5 children. And I was doing therapy the whole time, and nobody knew it. I was discussing life, various forms of life, the beauty of life. Everybody thought I was lecturing on hypnosis and demonstrating hypnosis, and didn't know I was doing any therapy either, just being a good subject. I knew what I was doing, nobody else did. Now therapy can be done, and your patient makes her own interpretation, makes her own value about what you say, and they apply it to themselves any way they wish.